This is also a time of change for my family. Catherine, she became Queen Consort in recognition of her own loyal public service.
No one in the big hall could understand why a second crown was placed beside the throne. Not even the elderly royal family members seated a few feet away. Even the royal personnel and constitutional specialists were nowhere to be found. But King Charles knew exactly what he was doing. More slowly than anyone had ever seen him, he stood up, grabbed the crown, turned to face Catherine, and permanently rested it on her shoulders. Everybody in the room was paying close attention to him. Every single person in the room became silent at that same moment. The meeting's day and time were not made public. There was no press release, official announcement, or warning to broadcasters outside the royal gates. In one of the ancient rooms in Britain, there was a hushed assembly. There was a deep silence in the room, an indication that something important was going to happen. Senior members of the royal family, seasoned constitutional consultants, and long-serving palace officials were among the exclusive group that King Charles requested to be there. None of them knew that this meeting would become a pivotal moment in the modern history of the British monarchy. No press cameras were there, and tabloids were not informed beforehand, so Catherine's entry was silent. She carried herself with the poise she had grown accustomed to, as though she were bearing the weight of numerous eyes on her every day. The atmosphere drastically changed as soon as King Charles entered the room. Those who witnessed it afterward characterized it as a bodily sensation similar to the quiet that precedes a downpour. He seemed to be in better health than some had predicted, but he also seemed to be conscious of the fact that his time to act was running out. On the 5th of February 2024, Buckingham Palace reported that he had been diagnosed with an unknown type of cancer. In December 2025, he announced that his therapy was entering a cautious phase. This was a major milestone, according to his medical staff. He shared this knowledge in a video message for Channel 4's Stand Up to Cancer program. As someone who has experienced cancer, he spoke candidly. Then, standing at the head of the room, he paused for several long moments. Everyone stopped breathing and stood motionless at that time. Then he turned around and met Catherine's gaze. What followed was described as a moment of great importance. It was more than just a formality. Instead, it was a confirmation. He was delivering a message that was important to her. William was always supposed to take the throne. However, Charles took a different action that day. And he wasn't just recognizing succession, he was acknowledging leadership. In particular, he was proving that Catherine was the most powerful member of the monarchy, and that the people would continue to support her in the years to come. He took a step forward. He communicated all the information the world needed to know with that single action. Hello viewers, do you think King Charles is right to officially acknowledge Princess Catherine as the most influential and genuine emotional leader of the contemporary monarchy? Is it true or not? If you think Catherine is the crown's undeniable future, please indicate so in the comments. The spirits of significant events can be found in some rooms. It was one of those rooms. Even though it only lasted a few seconds, the incident fundamentally changed everything. The reaction throughout all of Britain was uniform as the news was shared thanks to the palace's careful communication channels. There is silence to start. After that, most people who had heard it felt a surge of relief. The rationale behind King Charles's choice of Catherine as the head of state. The loss that the monarchy suffered with the death of Queen Elizabeth the Stagist in Scotland's Balmoral Castle on the 8th of September 2022 must be considered in order to understand King Charles's reasoning. The monarchy has been searching for something that could potentially bridge the void caused by her passing ever since. Queen Elizabeth was many different things to the monarchy. Her advantages included stability and institutional knowledge. The entire organization revolved around her since she was the most significant individual in the kingdom. With her death, the world lost not only a ruler, but also a trustworthy source of guidance. As of right now, the question of who can partially fill her role remains unanswered. King Charles received this heritage, along with the challenges that accompanied it. His coronation, which took place at Westminster Abbey on May 6, 2023, was a historic and dramatic event. However, it also marked the start of a new era that could not be defined by the coronation events alone. For the first time in modern history, a king faced serious health issues right after taking the throne. It was discovered that he was fighting cancer in February of 2024. Despite his health issues, he carried on with his career. He continued to carry out the essential work that comes with being king, despite taking a leave of absence from his public responsibilities in the early months of 2024 to obtain treatment. This is an important thing to remember. He proceeded to fulfill his constitutional obligations by signing documents, going to briefings, and taking part in various events. He attended 535 public appearances in 2025, making him the royal who put in the most effort that year. The most crucial topic that every monarchy will have to deal with in the future, however, cannot be answered by hard work. Who will be the head of the monarchy? The legal response is clear. Charles is pursued by Prince William, followed by Prince George. In actuality, though, the topic of leadership goes beyond legal succession. Charles could see this difference better than most people. He had been observing Catherine intently. He noticed her glitter during formal occasions. However, he also saw her perseverance in trying circumstances. She had chemotherapy for several months after being diagnosed with cancer in March of 2024. She made a graceful return to public life and never exploited her illness to gain notoriety or sympathy. They informed royal analysts of their findings. As 2026 approached, Richard Fitzwilliam stated that Catherine was a crucial part of the monarchy. Catherine also had an impact on the culture, according to a close source in the palace, who said that she possesses the skills required to smoothly transition into her position throughout the course of her career. Having learned from Queen Elizabeth II, the speed at which everything she wears sells out is known as the Kate effect. This not only relates to retail, but it also demonstrates her indisputable impact. In 2026, she became the first Princess of Wales to grant royal warrants in 116 years. A significant prerogative not seen since Queen Mary's reign. King Charles could see all of this clearly. He was well aware of the challenges and intricacy of his role. He chose to accompany Catherine because she was already exhibiting leadership traits. Put otherwise, he was endorsing it. The preparations being made in the palace were never meant to be seen by the outside world. In the months preceding the event that would take place in the Great Hall, the palace was going under a number of minor changes. The many cameras and reporters that followed the royal family on their trip were not informed of these changes, nor were they visible to the public. Conversely, this shift happened in private settings and through dialogue. The British monarchs have traditionally made important decisions quietly and cautiously, waiting until they were fully prepared. Sources close to the palace claimed that King Charles, Prince William, and a few senior constitutional experts had a number of conversations. These talks, which took place at Buckingham Palace and Highgrove, were not intended to address medical succession preparation. The palace's policy has always been to keep those issues apart. These discussions, in contrast, focused on a more nuanced and important subject. They concentrated on how the general public saw the monarchy's future. Catherine's name came up quite a bit during these conversations. She would undoubtedly rule as queen in the future. However, during a time of greater uncertainty, the focus was on her ability to provide strong and approachable leadership. The monarchy was preparing not just for the future, but also for the immediate future. The palace closely monitored approval ratings. These ratings in 2024 and 2025 showed a convoluted story. King Charles was highly esteemed. Prince William was greatly trusted, and Queen Camilla had attained acceptability. But Catherine was loved. The general public felt a genuine bond with her, which led to a loyalty that polls failed to adequately capture. Over time, Catherine's involvement in public events increased. Her status as Colonel of the Irish Guards, a highly esteemed military title, was emphasized in particular. When she led the regiment's St. Patrick's Day celebration at the Man's Barracks in Aldershot in 2026, she showed warmth and familiarity with the occasion. The royal warrants were handled with extreme caution. The timing of the announcement and the fact that Catherine would be the first Princess of Wales to grant them in 16 years were both incredibly well planned. According to insiders, Catherine wanted to support the UK's industry and skills. She took her responsibilities extremely seriously, viewing them as a justifiable use of power as she prepared for much more important duties that lay ahead. The palace's ability to make important decisions seem effortless was crucial since every step of the planning process seemed natural. But this was not an easy feat. Every decision was made with William's input, and the king's advisors carefully considered the implications for the constitution. It was more crucial to consider how and to what extent Catherine would be elevated rather than whether or not she would be promoted. King Charles's choice to make the news surprised a lot of people who weren't in this close-knit group. He wanted it to sound more intimate than a press secretary's typical speech or a formal announcement that was made public. Instead of taking place in any other venue, it would happen in a room during a gathering and during an act. When the time finally arrived, everything happened exactly as he had predicted. As it had not been reported or recorded, it would be hard to misunderstand how Catherine battled cancer, shown that she was in fact destined for the throne. Catherine released a video to the world on the 22nd of March, 2024. A basic shirt with stripes was whatever she was wearing while sitting in a serene Windsor park. Without utilizing a script, she conveyed her information that she was undergoing prophylactic chemotherapy after receiving a cancer diagnosis. She spoke honestly and clearly. The world stopped. In the coming weeks, the way the public paid attention started to change, and the months that followed Catherine's choice to step back from public life to focus on her health and the welfare of her 3 kids. She had been the focus of intense attention from tabloids for 15 years, which progressively decreased, but not entirely. It was in fact visible. Comments grew more forgiving. People wanted graphics, but they also wanted anything deeper. They saw more than just a royal person going via a medical emergency. They were waiting, worrying, and holding their breath for someone they thought they knew. They were holding their breath, the usual focus in. This conversation was not about her outfit choices. It had a deeper significance to it. Over a number of years, as their friendship grew, they saw Catherine's motherhood, marriage, courting, and the challenges that followed Queen Elizabeth's death. Now that she was facing something that they were acquainted, anxiety, illnesses, and the uncomfortable waiting that goes along with them all come together. In compliance with the palace's health update policy, which stated that information should only be shared when it was considered to be of significance. However, the specifics of her health condition were kept private. Catherine completed her preventative chemotherapy in September of 2024. Her return to public engagements was accompanied by careful venue selection. She ensured that she attended events that were important and refrained from going to potentially postponed events. Then, in January 2026, she confirmed what everyone had hoped for. She had gone into omission state. That's just 2 words. Following the announcement, individuals in the UK and elsewhere, I felt relieved. Catherine's fight with illness and subsequent road to recovery caused the public's opinion of her to change. The princess came out of her health crisis stronger and more human than before. At times, she was thought to be excessively regulated and polished. She stayed close to her family. Her union remained solid, and her feeling of, even if she encountered difficulties that no royal upbringing could have, responsibility stayed intact, sufficiently equipped her. Her compassion and commitment to helping others remained unwavering after she succeeded. Despite her lack of intention, she also developed a strong emotional bond with the general public. Within, this connection was different from the one the monarchy has been in since Diana. It was built on a shared sense of vulnerability and a desire to survive. Numerous people saw her go and return, acknowledging her as someone who had experienced hardship and grown stronger as a result. King Charles was present throughout the entire ceremony. He had received therapy for his own cancer at the same time, so he was familiar with illness. Catherine was at that time. He also recognized the importance of the public monarchy link. Furthermore, he understood that genuine strength is linked to vulnerability. Catherine showed strength. She never didn't have it. It was undeniable after what she had to go through. It was impossible for anyone to write it off as just clever image management or a way for press teams and stylists to get credit. Her demonstration was accurate. And the only thing that lasts is the real. Every single member of Parliament was breathing heavily due to the constitutional power transfer. Comparing the constitutions of the British Constitution is different from that of most major democratic countries. One written document doesn't add any proof of it. Rather, the United Kingdom's constitution is made up of earlier court rulings, traditions, and a deep comprehension that has grown over many generations. This provides it with a great deal of flexibility, allowing people who are familiar with it to change it without changing the legislation. This constitution is something King Charles is acutely aware of. It is untrue that his actions changed any legislation. Recent event to strengthen Catherine's standing. This had no effect whatsoever on the succession plan, Prince George is still in the running for second place, and William is still the heir. Nothing has changed in terms of the legal structure. On the other hand, there was a less formal but possibly more permanent alteration. Rather than having legal authority over Parliament, the British monarchy's true power comes from the fact that it is quite noticeable and prevalent throughout the nation. People must have a regal figure to symbolize their identity. Queen Elizabeth was quite good at this, using her symbolic presence as a constitutional queen in a successful way. She was powerful, but not because she was in charge of Parliament. Instead, she was strong because she held a special position that Parliament was unable to match. Within, in order to position Catherine not just as the future Queen of the Crown, but as the true head of state of the nation today, King Charles carried out a very modest constitutional change. He made no changes to the Act. From the public's perspective, he was successful. He provided them with emotional support in a way that will be challenging to change the mindset. One feature of the British government was Parliament. In public it was reserved, but behind the scenes it was crucial. Every political figure have made statements that recognize Catherine's importance to the monarchy, both now and in the future, regardless of their party allegiance, the future. Nearly everyone agreed that promoting Catherine was a wise decision for the organization and something the nation needed. Even though under the present situation, agreement is incredibly rare, speaking under the condition of anonymity, a senior government. Officials described the current state of affairs as a timely and essential modernization of the monarchy. Catherine is particularly suitable for the job of fostering interpersonal relationships. Another political analyst claimed that discovered that the monarchy's power came from its capacity to unite people during a period of distrust and division. While individuals were not in Westminster, they looked into constitutional issues with the British public's focused attention in concerning the sovereign. Charles's unauthorized action, according to some, increased its power. By leaving out formal remarks, he showed a degree of directness and urgency that could not be achieved by following protocol, those connected to the personal side of the circumstances. There is a little gathering, a quiet area, and a crown that is positioned differently, in the context of a sick king and a daughter-in-law returning from her own. History is often written about these kinds of incidents. Usually it takes years for them to be accurately documented in official records. However, there are times when people recognize the importance of a moment as it happens because it is so significant. It was one of those moments. All around Britain, the response was the same. From tabloids to newspapers, from constitutional experts to those who saw Catherine grow from a student to a princess, this was more than just a crown that King Charles put on. He definitely changed the game forever. In what manner? Does King Charles's last public deed actually have an impact on Britain's future? Every monarch will eventually have to deal with an essential query that all previous kings and queens have asked. What did you build then? The query of, it doesn't matter who will succeed them, because that is determined by birth and the law. They are worried about the legacy they leave behind. This question has not yet received a thorough response from King Charles III. He goes on to meet with other heads of state in town, do his official duties, and sit on the throne. The medical treatment he received. Near the end of 21-25, reception entered a precautionary phase. He continues to maintain a busy schedule as 2026 approaches. This illustrates his belief that he will not permit sickness to decide how his reign will unfold before he has a chance to design it. In a video Messageth was produced in December 2025 for the Stand Up to Cancer campaign and broadcast nationwide, he highlighted the significance of early diagnosis can save lives. He saw the reduction in his course of therapy as both a benefit for himself and an example of the significant progress in the treatment of cancer. These remarks suggest that he is not preparing to take action. Conversely, he knows that he still has time, authority, and a platform tolerable. What he wants to leave behind is shown by the nature of his connection with Catherine. This conversation has nothing to do with constitutional issues. That story has already been told. It all boils down to how the populace views the monarchy. The existence of the monarchy depends on this belief that it still matters and has a purpose. Catherine is a symbol of a modern royalty that people can trust. She doesn't portray herself as perfect or inaccessible. Everyone acknowledged her as a human being because of her battle with disease. Simultaneously, despite intense scrutiny, she returned to her work with a distinct purpose. At the Evelina London Children's Hospital, a 10-year-old girl named Adrian approached her, the start of 2026, and asked whether she was the Queen. Catherine stopped, grinned, and gave a human and empathetic response. That little moment, which went viral on the internet, revealed more about her than any title could possess. William will take the throne when the time comes, and George will succeed him, just as it has for more than a millennium. Despite the challenges and transformations it has encountered, the monarchy still exists. Conversely, however, a line of succession by itself is insufficient to keep the monarchy in place. There is a connection to it. People across the nation must feel that this group isn't theirs. He made a choice that will profoundly affect his legacy. He selected the person who, rather than having to accept it as a given, he thought had the capacity to uphold that belief in the future. However, the person who is already experiencing the response to the query that the monarchy has been posing for ages. Catherine was. He gave it a name. The people of Britain seemed to have finally breathed a sigh of relief, realized this in a calm and thorough way. The monarch's last major act in this way. He assigns the duty to a capable individual. As King Charles looked at Catherine, he saw not only the monarchy's destiny, but also whether or not the people would survive, to have faith in it. Viewers, if you concur that King Charles's greatest legacy will not be the laws he enacted, but rather his astute choice to give Princess Catherine responsibility for the monarchy's continued relevance. In the comments, select yes. Share and like this video and sign up now. If this tale resonated with you, stay tuned. Together, this monarchy, William and Catherine, have a lot more to anticipate. The next chapter has already begun.